let's see if I can do this without destroying the whole setup. There we go. I did it. All right. So whenever you're ready, hit it.
Hey, this is Jason Parker with soundretirementplanning.com, and you're listening to Jeff Smith with Vroom Vroom Veer.
See, now everybody's going to practice before they even show up. See, you're getting smart.
Hey, I know. I thought about it. I was like, man, this guy is going to make me do a promo for somebody else's show. I better think about what I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, it's your promo. It's your, right? So you're going to be promoting yourself on somebody else's show. That's how that works.
Jeff, you're smart, man. I think I'm going to start doing that with my show.
You should. It's funny and make it outtakey and confusing. Okay, I'll be right back.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Dr. Josh Wagner, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer, and welcome to the show. How's it going?
Absolutely, Jeff. Thank you for having me. It's going great.
Cool. So before we dig into your past and have a mini little pseudo therapy session like we do on Vroom Vroom Veer, let's talk a little bit briefly about what you've got going on over there at drjoshwagner.com.
Well, drjoshwagner.com is filled with resources that are all based on the premise of my first, newest book on the single factor that makes all the difference between getting from where you are to where you want to get to in any area of your life, especially if you're experiencing self-sabotage, friction, procrastination, anything that gets in the way of us having our best life. So that's my purpose, it's my passion, it's my message, and I'm excited to share it with your audience today because I guarantee from what I know of your audience, it will really, really resonate with them.
Yeah, and I think this is like it. Whenever I think of your stuff, I think of the movie again, City Slickers. Have we had this discussion? Because I've had this discussion with somebody else.
No, you know that I haven't heard that movie in so long, but it was because you mentioned it, and I don't remember the exact way in which you referenced it. So remind me, please.
So it's the thing that the takeout or the takeaway from that movie was Jack Palance, the actor, holding up a finger and saying, "Figure out what your one thing is," right? So, and you figured out one thing.
Got it.
It's the one thing that changes everything. And I have to say, I get it and I understand and I agree. So I think we're going to have fun. But before we get to the one thing, let's talk about Josh before you discovered your one thing and wanted to start sharing that with the world. So where did you grow up?
I grew up just north of New York City in Westchester County.
Okay. All right. So what kind of kid were you in high school? Were you a nerd or were you a jock?
I was definitely on the jock end, captain of the football team.
Really?
Played basketball,
okay.
football.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Dated cheerleaders.
Yeah, had the high school sweetheart. Did the whole.
You were like,
it was the Jack and Diane. It was the Dazed and Confused high school days.
Wow. Okay. So and you were quarterback. You've got that quarterback face, I have to say.
Thank you. I wasn't the quarterback.
But okay. But you started. What was your position?
I was captain, and I was primarily the free safety.
Wow.
So I wasn't one of the big
free safety. Interesting.
I wasn't big enough to be one of the linebackers or defensive linemen in the high school days. Well, I still am not, but
free safety is sort of like the if I'm not wrong, but I don't know how it plays out in high school
football
level, right? Yeah. But like when I think of free safety, I think of like Charles Woodson, right? He's really good at free safety, and he's sort of like the jack of all trade on defense. He's like, I can do anything.
Right.
You might blitz him. You might put him back in coverage.
It's the last line of It's the last line of defense. I think of it more of like the Ronnie Lott, one of the most memorable quotes I remember remember from a newspaper clipping, because we had a really good defense. We hardly let up more than 7 points a game, and we went to the state championship.
Holy cow.
And
nice.
One of the reporters said, if you're lucky enough to get through the defensive line, you get to be met by Josh Wagner with a brick wall.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So.
Wow. So you basically had an easy job. You were just like, okay, I just catch the guy if he leaks out, sort of thing.
Yeah, except I would say the hardest position on the football field is being a defensive back, because you've got to be pass coverage as well as any runners that break through, and it's tough. And I received punts and kicks, and that's very stress inducing when there's 11 guys running full speed at you while the ball's floating in the air, waiting for it to come down. And all they want to do is hurt you.
Yes. Yeah. No. Totally. And it's very cerebral. Everybody else is just sort of like running around being instinctual, but you kind of have to be like reading constantly.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of people who don't know football don't realize how calculated every aspect is, even if you're in the mix on the line. I mean, over half of our defense was in AP mathematics, like advanced placement, doing calculus.
Holy cow.
And what you had to know in terms of in the moment before every play, once the ball was snapped, depending on who moved where, was just as complicated as the advanced math we were doing. And that was at the high school level. Sure. I mean, college and NFL is to another level where there's no other. It's literally like going to war. There's so much strategy that people just don't understand.
No,
if you're not,
I get it.
Play.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I can tell funny stories about me playing high school football. They're mostly from practice because I was too small to start. So we had like a Class C team because it was a small school in Michigan, in Upper Michigan. I only played my freshman year, mostly just because I really liked being on the team, but I hardly ever played. So if I would have played more, I might have played more. Right. But just in that situation, I was never super athletic. Who knows why? I probably didn't deserve it. But so I played the quarterback, but in the offense that they ran, it was this exotic thing called the single wing. And in the single wing, the tailback is the quarterback, traditional style quarterback. They just call him a tailback. And then in this formation, the quarterback, which was my position, was usually the lead blocker. So it was like on all the running plays, I would run through the hole first. So it was like basically finding the hole for the running back and trying to get in the way, of whoever might be there through the hole, kind of.
Yeah, you were the grenade they rolled through the hole.
Correct. But I also I never got in. So my only funny story was basically from practice. The running backs coach was trying to teach us the lesson of go through the man when you're blocking, right? So that's the idea of you don't try to hit him, you try to go through him, right? So he used me as his example of a madman, so he was like, Jeff, run at Rich. Like a madman, right? So I did. I threw my arms up like a gorilla and just ran at Rich, and Rich went through me.
I believe it.
Yeah, and he was the starting fullback, so he was the lead runner, and he knew how to square his shoulders and really put a wall up on me. I literally flew. It was awesome.
I bet.
Okay, we digress. All right, so talk a little bit about let's say, your first job, and then how that transitioned into this discovery of what you were ending up going to do.
Absolutely. So that takes us back to just after high school. I'm 20 years old. I'm a sophomore at NYU in Manhattan, going to undergrad. And that's when the bug hit me to have a passion to want to become a chiropractor, which for most people is very, very random. I didn't have any chiropractic experience. My mother and brother had good results, but it just hit me. And I started talking to chiropractors. I started interning and spending time with practices that were successful. And 2 different chiropractors both said to me, Josh, if you really want to learn what we do, show up to this address in Brooklyn Thursday night, 7 p.m. Door's going to be open. Walk in. It's a home. Go down the stairs and just wait. And two different chiropractors that I looked up to both told me that around the same time. So I said, all right, I got to go. And we're talking about an address in Brooklyn that is not like Brooklyn of the last 5 to 10 years, which is very up and coming and high end in certain areas.
Right.
We're talking about the part of Brooklyn where you don't want to be on the street after dark.
Right. So part of you thinking these guys are going to roll you.
Right. Or like, is this a hazing experiment?
Right.
Testing me. And I didn't know what to expect, but I go out there, I find the house, walk through the front door. There's no one on the top floor, no one in the main level of the home, empty kitchen, empty living room, find the door that looks like it would lead to a basement, open it up, start going down, and it's wood stairs, it's wood walls, it's even wood ceiling. I could tell there's just something different. It feels like a hunting lodge, which is not what Brooklyn feels like.
Right.
And by the time I get to the bottom of the stairs, I see a whole basement that's furnished with rows of wood benches like steeples in a church. They look like they were taken out of a church.
Okay.
And about 4 rows, and there was about a dozen, mostly men, sitting there just waiting. And I came to find they were all chiropractors, and who appeared moments later was a 94-year-old retired chiropractor who every Thursday night at 7:15 would speak for about 45 minutes and share his passion and his love for the profession, for self-growth, for philosophy, spirituality, religion, just everything making a contribution to those in the audience every single week. Wow. 94 years old.
Wow.
And
amazing.
Literally this man just oozed love. And his career, he practiced in his home 7 days a week. He had a line around the block of patients every single day. Everyone would just bring their families to him. And he had 2 different treatment rooms. One was, I believe, $2 an adjustment.
Jeez.
And this was years ago. And the other room was $5 an adjustment. And the difference between the rooms was if you wanted to cut the line. So,
if you're in a hurry, you have to pay $5. Okay.
So he practiced 30 plus years in Brooklyn, 7 days a week, seeing this. And then when he retired, because it takes a toll on your body being a chiropractor and adjusting people all day, he went into teaching. And he's considered the godfather of chiropractic. He looks like Albert Einstein with the hair that's big and white and sticks out. He has these glasses that are really thick, so it makes the eyes look really big.
Right.
And if you caught him on a good night, he'd have his white button-down collared shirt on with a bald eagle on each chest plate sewn in.
That's amazing. Wow.
And he had a beautiful name. His name is Pasquale Sarasoli. Just beautiful,
so Italian,
beautiful.
Yes.
Rolls
human
off
man.
the tongue. Beautiful human and man. And what I'd say is of all his teachings, and a lot of times it was hard to explain or hard to digest because he's so ethereal, yet I could boil everything he taught, again, in all the spheres of personal growth and spirituality and philosophy, into just 3 words that you can take with you, and it'll make a profound difference in your life. In fact, so strong that at my last live seminar, a young woman, an attendee, messaged me 2 weeks after with a picture. She tattooed the words on her forearm so they don't leave her, so she can always look down and remember them.
Okay.
That impactful. And those 3 words are tone over bone. Tone, T-O-N-E, over bone. Now, in the chiropractic sense, that means your intention, why you're doing what you're doing, why you're adjusting, is far more important than actually moving a bone or the actual procedure you do. But it goes far, far deeper and more expansive than anything healthcare, chiropractic, or treatment related. Tone over bone means your intention, your why, how you show up, what you're thinking is far more important and valuable and significant than what you do. I always talk with people, the how and the why behind whatever you're doing is far, far more important. And you could think about it, apply it to your life listening. Maybe you're in a certain profession. Maybe you have a certain role in society. You know 10 people similarly who do the same things but have dramatically different results. Whether it's, you could all have the same profession, go to the same job, work the same hours, but have 10 different incomes. Or people in your same town that you grew up with have 10 different relationship statuses. 8 of them might be married, but the quality of those marriages are very different.
Right.
So tone over bone is something that should inspire that any conversation you're about to go into, any circumstance, especially anything that you have hesitancy, uncertainty about, remember that how you show up, your intention, your tone is always going to be more valuable and significant in determining the outcome than whatever it is you do, what you say, any of that.
What you do and what you say, yes. Are you a fan of A Course in Miracles? Have you ever heard of that book?
I think it's about 2 feet behind me right now in my library.
Really?
Now, I will tell you, I started that in grad school, and it's so deep and so heavy. I tried to read a few pages every morning.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to get through it. I highly value it.
Right.
I just never got through it. If anything, the initial quote in the very beginning is very beautiful.
I know, right?
I can't repeat it because I haven't looked at it in years, but about every whatever's real and not real.
It's an amazing book. So I actually did get through it. I didn't get through I bought the combo book, which is all the workbook too. So I got through the initial text, which I just thought was really fun to read because it's really weird.
It is.
Yeah. But I had a lot of takeaways, and you made me remember one that I actually remembered earlier because it had to do with the time of my life. I was like having all of these really like scary, stressful interactions that I was always uncertain about. Okay. And they would just pop up all day, every day. Right. And I was still active duty Air Force at that point. And I had read something in A Course in Miracles, and it was like, you don't have to know what to do or say to let a miracle work through you because you're not doing the miracle. You're just there letting it go through you. Right. So just take all that ego out. Right. And just let it happen. Right. Yes, I know. Right. And I was like, it was just a relief. I was like, I'm going to try that. I'm totally going to try that. So the next time somebody came up to me and I was uncertain, scared, feeling less than, I just said, all right, I'm just going to empty my mind here and see what happens. And I went up and had the interaction, and it was literally a miracle. Literally. I can't, I don't remember the context, but the first time I tried it, I was like, the result was not only better than I could ever imagined, it just seemed like magic. So
that's wonderful. And for the listeners out there, I want to make sure they've realized that I haven't actually revealed the secret yet. Tone over bone is just the structure. I'm going to give you the tone in a few minutes.
Right.
Because someone could be listening and say, okay, that makes sense. It's the why and how you do something, not the what, but how and why do I do it? You could be just stuck.
What is the why? What is the how? Right. That's important. Yeah,
and what I got from Pasquale, I went to chiropractic school. I started a wonderful practice from scratch on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I saw a lot of areas in my field that I was doing things that a lot of the profession didn't know, and I started a program helping chiropractors and then other doctors deliver an exceptional new patient experience. Really just show them how we listen, be able to explain what we do easily and eloquently. And I started sharing this with the profession. And lots of the doctors who used it saw immediate results and changed their practice and changed their lifestyle and changed their income. But a lot of doctors who I gave the same exact material and instruction to stayed stuck.
Right.
Friction, messed it up, self-sabotage, procrastinated, all the things that as humans we do in certain areas.
Right.
And I started looking, well, okay, what was I giving them? I was giving them the bone. I was giving them procedures, strategies, words. And that goes only that goes only so far. And a few years into it, I realized after being on the other end, going from learning and being the student for all my life to then being the teacher and of course still learning as the teacher, why was it not working with some doctors but working with others, even if they're in the same town with the same type of practice, same staff, same everything? What's the difference? And this is what I stumbled upon. The tone, the single tone that makes the difference in any endeavor you pursue, whether you're looking to make enough for retirement, lose 25 pounds, meet the love of your life, have more joy and fun doing whatever you do. This is it. So to make it real and more impactful for the listeners, before revealing it to you, think of one area in your life that you're really going for and that's really important, but you're experiencing the friction, the self-sabotage, the procrastination, however it shows up for you that you're not getting it. And it's not obvious that you're going to get it within 3 months, a year, meaning if your goal is to have $1 million saved and you are progressively saving a certain amount every month and you know you'll get there in a year or 5 years, not that goal. I'm talking about another goal that's that's really important, but there's obvious friction, you're not making progress, you're frustrated, and it's important to you. Not some pipe dream like, oh, I hope I win the lottery one day.
So for me, it would be like losing weight. That would be a good example for me.
Now, because you didn't have to admit what you were going for, but I'm curious. So are you really actively trying to lose the weight, or is it just a hope that maybe one day you'll get around to it?
It's more of the second thing.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Because,
right.
So, and Jeff,
actually, the thing is like, okay, all right, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, you don't even have to tell me, and I'd almost rather you not, whatever your real one is.
Sure.
I just want, as the listener, I want you to plant that in your head.
Right.
For when I tell you what it is, that you can immediately apply it to and realize, yes or no, is this the reason? So
okay.
I'm going to ask a really simple yes or no question. The answer will be yes or no, related to that area that will give you the answer as to why you don't have it, you're experiencing the friction or procrastination, and unless you change something, likely never will have it. So plant in your mind the end results that you're looking for. So if it was someone with weight loss, it would be the body size, the weight that you want. If it was financial, it's the income, the savings, the wealth, whatever it may be, that end goal that you want. Maybe it's the lifestyle. Maybe it's the perfect relationship. And just ask yourself this in your head. Do you believe you deserve having that result in your life? Do you believe you deserve to have that result in your life? And you either got a yes, a no, or a no answer, like some ambiguity. And a no answer is a no. And literally, the deserving belief is the single most important factor that determines from where you are to where you want to get to, if you are putting effort and energy towards it, whether or not you will actually make progress and get there in the future, which does not discredit all the other great forces like honesty and integrity and passion and purpose and commitment and discipline and connections and resources, and all of that is beneficial. But if you don't believe you deserve what you're going after, none of those will make the difference. If you do believe you deserve what you're going after, all of those will help speed it up and draw it to you easier. That is the missing link that I don't hear anyone else speaking about, and is the reason why so many people can use the same coach, use the same self-development, live in the same town, have the same discipline, have the same amount of money or resources, but have vastly different results for what they're going for. So the deserving belief is the tone. The bone really doesn't matter when you have it.
Right.
And that's why you can think of the 10 wealthiest people, they're all in different spheres of real estate and technology and, name the thing. You could think of 10 people who were in amazing relationships. They all met in different ways. They all had different courting experiences. They all had different weddings. They're all from different backgrounds and religions and ideologies. You can apply this to anywhere. So it's not the what or the how. I mean, it's not the what, it's the how and the why, and the how and the why is the tone, which is whether or not you believe you deserve it. Now, the important thing is you may have said in your mind, like, wow, I got it. I don't believe I deserve to be financially free or to be 30 pounds lighter because of something that happened in your past that set in some type of shame or undeserving belief.
Right. I get it.
But just knowing that doesn't make a difference. So you can acknowledge and be aware, wow, that makes a lot of sense. If I don't believe I deserve something, I'm going to self-sabotage on my way to get it. But just knowing that isn't going to flip your switch from undeserving to deserving. What I teach at my website in the book called You Deserve It is a ridiculously simple process that you could do from the comfort of your home. You don't need to interact with me. It doesn't cost a dime. That when you do it every day on a specific area of your life, you will have the ability to flip the switch from undeserving to deserving. And then that's when beautiful things start to change in your life, where literally you can keep doing the same exact things you're doing. And just because you have the deserving belief, what you're doing is going to take on new results. You're going to have a new energy behind it. You're going to have a new tone. The synchronicities of life are going to come, and you're going to meet the right people and see new opportunities. And you're most likely going to see and stop where you're self-sabotaging and choose new actions and actually get off the couch and start doing it when the deserving belief is present, when that tone is present. So that is my message. There's nothing more important than I can share with people who want to see change and a real difference in their life.
Yeah, and it's amazing because it's almost as if you've discovered one of those really good questions.
Right.
Yeah, which, to be honest with you, I think you've sort of like introduced me to a whole new idea, because I've already had this sort of like underlying fundamental belief that not necessarily, it didn't really, I've never stepped on the idea of deserving, not deserving as being like
the linchpin.
Right. Like a really big key, the key probably. Right. Because I mean, we've all gone through self-sabotage, procrastination. I just learned, right, like recently, that people that procrastinate don't want to procrastinate. They're not choosing that behavior. Right.
Right.
I didn't know that. I was just, these people, I'm just like,
I
for the most part,
I see it as a symptom. Procrastination is a symptom of an undeserving belief in the area they're procrastinating about.
Totally. Yeah. I didn't never connect the dot to the undeserving piece, but I only just, I just like always, my wife has got procrastination. And now I say that way, like it's an affliction. I used to just say I can never get her out of the house, right? And it's like this like dance of push, cajole, you could do blah, blah, but you're always doing this dance to try to just get her out into the car, But I read a blog post. Have you ever heard of Wait But Why by Tim Urban? It's a really good blog. So
no, I haven't.
No big deal. Yeah,
I'll check it out.
But he is a procrastinator, admittedly, right? And he did this really long blog post about how it's an affliction. So, like, he's not choosing to do that, but he knows that he procrastinates. So we'll have to send him this link to this podcast so he can learn that he deserves to not procrastinate.
Absolutely.
Right.
And what's beautiful is a lot of people may hear that and think, oh, well, I'm just destined to not deserve something or genetically. And no, it's a belief. It's not
wiring. Yes.
There's a reason I don't use the word worthy, because worthy connotates in people's minds that oftentimes someone outside of them determines that, whether it's there's
a value judgment built into the word worthy.
Whether it's teacher, preacher, mother, father, whether it's a deity, whether it's an ideology. No, a deserving belief is completely of your own choosing. What happens, though, is in adolescence, in childhood,
totally,
many of them get switched to off based on our upbringing, based on our parents' values, or whoever we spent the most time around. Or it literally could have been one moment, someone said something to you on the playground, and you thought, I don't deserve to be athletic. I don't deserve to be skinny. I don't deserve to date the most attractive girl on the playground.
Right.
It can
the
happen
shame, embarrassing thing. Yes.
It can happen in an instant, and it can happen over years, like most people are conditioned to believe they deserve the lifestyle their parents had. And it could be very tough to break free from that and think that, oh no, there's no reason I don't deserve to earn more than my mother or father did and have a greater lifestyle. So we get conditioned and we're not conscious of it. It just happens.
I watched that happen to a schoolroom of kids. Now this is, not a big deal, right? It was completely innocent. So I'm not judging or, trying to downplay or make this teacher look like a bad person. She's not, right? I was doing IT support in a Inglewood school district for a while. Okay. So that meant that I was in the classroom hanging out with teachers and students all at once. And I would just pick up things. Right. And I often wondered where like embarrassment and shame came from. Right. Where does that come from? You're not born with it. Right. It comes from the culture. Right. That's where we learn as children when to be embarrassed and when to be ashamed. And she was getting ready to get the class to go and do this like parent day performance. And she's kind of like lining them all up. And she was like, she said the words like, now make sure you don't scratch yourself or fidget around because that would be embarrassing for you. Something like that. Right. And I'm like, that's where we get it. That's where it comes from. It's happening all the time, but especially around kids, you don't understand. I'm not blaming that teacher.
No, right.
For saying
they
that.
absorb everything.
Right. I mean, that it's true, and you kind of need to know when to be embarrassed or you'll be walking around naked all the time and nobody wants to do that. So you need to learn these things. But I don't know if there's a safer way to do this, more maybe like with more awareness or more intention.
Well, that's a good point. And that leads to that you're never going to protect, let's say, if you're hearing this and want to implant or protect your child from having undeserving. It's not possible.
No.
It's life
there are
is
no
dealing with the ups and downs.
inoculations of this stuff.
Right. What is possible is wherever you're stuck and you're not getting the results you want is to be aware. Is it because of an undeserving belief? Because it doesn't have to be. It could be other things.
Right.
And
maybe you just don't want it.
Exactly. So that's why I always say something you're actually going for that's meaningful to you. And even then, oftentimes we're going for stuff we actually don't want, but we're conditioned by society. That's what we should want.
Right.
And that's another story I'll tell you in a second. Yet to be aware where the undeserving belief is and realize it's changeable. It's not cemented. It's not ingrained. It doesn't matter what side of the tracks you grew up on, your gender, your age, your religion, your sexual orientation. There is no inherent, and this is really important, there is no inherent undeserving for anyone in any area of life. If it exists in this world and you exist in this world, there's no inherent you are undeserving of it. Whether that's love, physical materialism, wealth, peace of mind, happiness. It's just not how the world works. There's no one that's stamped undeserving. And when you know that, that can give you the motivation to actually do what I call the deserving process, to actually flip your switch and start seeing change both internally, feeling better about the area, and then externally, actually seeing change take place in life, even if you've tried all these different resources and nothing has moved the needle. If you can acknowledge you don't believe you deserve it, you got to go for that. You got to attack it.
It's interesting because it sounds a lot like a lot of spiritual work, in my experience, is less about learning a thing. You learn a tiny little thing, and then you use that tiny little thing to unlearn. Like Yoda said, you must unlearn what you have learned.
Oh, right. It's so much. Yeah, it's so much more about
unlearning.
Shedding.
Yes, it's an unlearning process because you first have to go learn what you've learned, and then go, that was wrong.
There's this great quote. I don't think it's Louis Armstrong, but it's one of the other most famous trumpeters. And it's this quote that says, you've got to study the 10 hours a day for 10 years and have everything down perfectly, all the scales, everything to a T, every piece of music you read. Once you do that, throw it all away and just blast.
Right.
And that's when you have it.
You have to know the rules to learn how to break them successfully.
Right. So,
right.
Back to that, a lot of people will say, oh, Josh, you're teaching this deserving belief. Well, do you have everything in life you deserve? And do you have that? And it's like, no, of course not, because I'm human. I'm just like you. And every single day I walk my talk. I'm doing the deserving process every morning, if not another time during the day. And I'm constantly doing it towards different areas of my life because it's not a single switch encompassing over everything. This isn't about omnipotence. This is, in your financial sector, in your financial area, there's infinite areas, meaning your income is one deserving belief. But guess what? I could give you 100 people with $100,000 income, and they all have 100 different lifestyles. Why? Because there's many factors like your overhead, how you choose to spend and save, your money management, your ideology, where you live, your taxes. So there's then there's income. I could show you a lot of people with a certain income who have varying different amounts of wealth, different amounts of savings. So every area of your life is divided into subcategories.
Right.
For instance, does someone believe they deserve to be married or not? Okay, that's one factor. But are they going to be happily married? That's a whole nother factor.
Yeah, so it's like the undeserving
I'm constantly
idea.
Targeting every area. And for me, it's
an everyday process.
It's not getting to the top of the mountain. It's you're always doing the work. As long as you're playing the game, things are going to be changing and moving in the right way. And then other areas of your life are constantly going to be going out and neglected. And life is a process. It's never about getting to the end point. And a few years into exactly. So a great example of that is years ago, on paper, it would have looked like I had a lot of people's dream. So I have a wonderful apartment in Manhattan. My business is pretty much entirely online, coaching doctors in 18 different countries over the world, traveling and giving seminars.
Nice.
I have a beautiful apartment on one of the nicest blocks in Manhattan. I have another apartment in Miami Beach with 180-degree water views. I've got the convertible of my dreams. I've got wonderful, at certain point, wonderful girlfriend. At other parts, wonderful girlfriends. If I wasn't in a relationship, I had completed my financial goals for the most part. And on paper, and there was no stop to this foreseeably going forward in the future. And on paper, it looked perfect, but I really wasn't happy. I was working myself to the bone.
Right.
I wasn't doing my pure passion. I didn't know about the deserving belief at that point. My goal was just, okay, I'm going to make this business work and free myself from having a commute and having a set 9 to 5, which means I had an 8 to midnight.
You're killing the shallow American dream is what you know.
Right.
Yeah. And then you realize that it sucks.
Right.
Yes.
And one of my goals, and still is, it's for a different phase of my life, is having a country property that serves as a sanctuary for rescue animals that have been abused and neglected, farm animals. And also a place for children to be able to be mentored and interact with the animals for the benefit for both the children and the animals.
Nice.
It's a passion of mine. And I don't have any experience with that. I didn't grow up on a farm. I don't have much experience interacting with children, especially special needs children of differing, whether it's physical disabilities, whether it's
intellectual,
social, intellectual,
right.
All different. And so I decided to take some time and spend weeks full-time volunteering on a rescue animal sanctuary in California that was catered to interaction with abused and neglected children.
Wow.
And what I didn't realize is that half the time I was literally just in a field scooping horse and cow manure. Because they were on dirt instead of grass, and it doesn't just act as fertilizer. You actually have to clean up after them.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm financially free. I don't have to be doing this. I could be adding so much more value to this organization. And I'm spending 2 to 4 hours a day just scooping it up in the sun and the wind, and the rain.
Yeah.
And it forced me to get out of my head, by doing a ridiculously monotonous task where I didn't have to be creative. I didn't have to think, okay, what am I going to do in 10 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
It really forced me to get more aware and present and ultimately grateful that I'm even able to do this. Like, not everyone could go and do this.
Right.
I didn't have the constraints of being at a 9 to 5, having to
You weren't stuck in a cube.
Right. And so
Right.
what I initially thought was so worthless and stupid and pointless, I gained tremendous gratitude, not just for that, but it instilled the tone of gratitude in me for realizing that at any moment I could be grateful for all the little things as well. Just for being healthy, alive, the ability to smile. I remember texting a mentor to me saying, my cheeks and my face hurt because I've never smiled this much during the day all week.
Yeah.
And I wasn't listening to comedy or going to some entertaining show. I was literally scooping manure and
it was
smiling.
amazing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and part of that was the
That's
first
like a fish head moment for me. Yeah.
Right. And part of it was the first 2 weeks my mind was so sabotaged and this was when I already knew about the deserving belief. That's when I started targeting my own happiness, my own gratitude for the deserving belief. And that's what helped make the change as well.
Wow.
So
nice.
Everything ties together, and this could be applied anywhere in any sector of life, no matter how old you are. And really what I hope the listeners will do is actually start using it and acting on it. And you could learn it in the book, you could learn it at my website, and use it for whatever is most important in your life.
Right. It's almost like you've now got a master key.
Exactly.
And you just have to go find the doors, right? So it doesn't matter if it's an intimate relationship or, a love relationship or, working on your spiritual practice. I always like to ask my guests about their spiritual practice. I think we've got a little bit of time left. So
sure.
If you don't mind, before we wrap up, talk a little bit about your spiritual practice. We all like to practice personal peace. So talk a little bit about meditation, peace of mind, spirituality, the whole deal.
Absolutely. So one of the most important aspects of my life and my day is how I start my mornings. And I recommend anyone to take bits and pieces of what I share. The first thing is it starts the night before. Put
Amen.
your phone.
Yes.
Yes. So one, I schedule my day the night before. I don't wake up and think, okay, what am I going to do today? How my day is going to go? Because it's like the race has already started. Schedule the night before, turn my phone on airplane mode. I use my phone as my alarm clock. So when I turn it off, the reason it's on airplane mode is I do not see any external stimuli or influences like notifications, texts, emails, anything like that. And my phone is on airplane mode the entire morning while I set my tone for the day. Now, I get it. You may have 5 children who wake up before you and have 27 minutes to shower and change and eat breakfast before getting out of the house. You can still take bits and pieces of this or wake up earlier or both and set the tone for how your day is going to go, because your life is just every day. Too many people get stuck thinking, next year when I reach this point, or if I get this job, or if I marry this person, or I attain financial freedom, that's when life is going to be set. No, the same issues, anxieties, and fears are still going to be there. They're just probably going to be amplified. Your life is how every one of your days goes, and you can control oftentimes a lot more than you think how your day goes. So I start my day with an hour of meditation. Now, if that's not possible for you, you can do 3 minutes. You've just got to start.
Whatever you've got. Yes.
Right. So I do an hour of meditation. I do usually 20 minutes of just freehand writing on a blank piece of paper. I fill at least 1 page with just emptying my mind of any thoughts that are still left over from my sleep state.
That practice is like magic. Yes.
It's beautiful.
It is.
The meditation and the writing I'll never let go of every morning, weekends included, vacation included. I will often take a 15-minute walk listening to music that makes me feel great. If it's too cold, I won't do that. I used to be a big workout person. I'm not anymore, but I know the value of it. So I'll usually do 100 push-ups broken up into a couple sets.
Nice.
I will do some pull-ups. I have recently incorporated taking or making the shower cold and enduring that.
I love the cold shower. Yes.
And
awesome
I do that. I do that
system.
not. Yeah. I do that not so much for my cardiovascular nervous system, but as a mental challenge because I know it's healthy and it definitely just wakes me up more.
Right. Oh yeah.
I will often read at least a few pages of something that's meaningful or inspiring to me.
Okay.
A good book. And I have a document on my computer that I started writing 15 years ago that gets updated almost every time I read it, and it's about my life.
Captain's
everything, all different areas of my life and my future. And I've also recorded it on audio, and I will listen to that sometimes on my walk.
Oh, fun.
And every month I record a new version of it because it gets updated every week. And I'm a different person every month, so I have a different energy when I'm reading it. Those are a handful of things I do every morning before I interact with anyone, before I open myself to the external world, before I turn on, I don't watch the news or the radio or any of that, but if you do, it's not going away. The social media, the news, the social media, the text, it'll be there an hour later, 2 hours later. So I urge you to start your day by giving yourself what's most important to set your tone to be your best self, most grateful self for the day, because your day will go differently. Things will happen differently. You'll have less emergencies. You'll have less distractions. Everything will work out better when you respect yourself enough to give yourself time to be your best for the other people in your life. This isn't selfish. The stronger and better you are, the better you're going to be for your family, for your colleagues, for your friends, for the people in your world. So don't think of this as, oh, someone can't contact me. What if there's an emergency?
Right.
Listen, there's not going to be an emergency.
And you also have to remember like that, what they tell you on an airplane. It's like always, people get like this sort of like martyr syndrome about like not taking care of themselves first, but you have to, that's not selfish. That's what you need to do. That's what on the airplane they tell you, put your mask on first.
Exactly.
So you don't die, so you can save your child.
Exactly. Just like lifeguards are instructed, if you go rescue someone out there and you're pulling them back in and a big wave comes, you put that person into the wave, not you.
Right. You don't want to
so you're
bodies.
Both not knocked out unconscious out there.
Exactly.
Because here's the thing. Now more than ever, with the interconnectedness of technology and social connection and social media, is we are pulled and distracted in more ways than ever before.
It's exhausting.
And you have to protect yourself from it. So I'm not advocating drop social media, don't be on Facebook or any of that. You've just got it. Well, no. Like for me, I do it for my own life. I pretty much seclude it to about 2%.
Yeah.
I know that's not possible for other people. Just like, for instance, I don't drink coffee because I never started drinking coffee, so I never got addicted to caffeine.
Good for you. Congratulations.
I'm not going to tell people you've got to not drink coffee in the morning, even though I think it's better to not have coffee in the morning. But I'm not going to tell you don't drink coffee.
Right.
Same with social media. I'm not going to tell you to drop social media because then you won't listen to anything I have to say.
Right.
But you've got to guard yourself and realize that it is the biggest distraction to your happiness, your peace of mind, and your productivity. Even if you think the bell, the vibrate, the ding of someone liking your post or the person you subscribe to on YouTube has something new out, and that feeling of, or an email coming through and feeling like, oh, there's something new, that 2 seconds of instant pleasure is the sugar and the cocaine hit that then turns to upsetness, not enoughness, depression, and real physiological and psychological negatives that we don't realize are happening until it's far too long and we're stuck and we don't know why people are surpassing us and we're just frustrated and depressed. And you can guard yourself from that, from starting off your mornings. For instance, another habit that I'll never give up is my phone is on permanently do not disturb.
Nice.
Which doesn't mean people can't get through to me. It just means I'm not alerted to it.
Right.
Because I have enough
you choose when to look
attention.
at it. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. and for the most part, usually my phone's on airplane mode until about noon.
I love it. It's a
I
really
don't
good
look at
idea. I like that.
Yeah, I don't look at my emails until after 5, yet I have an assistant who goes through them, and if there's anything that's necessary, she'll let me know.
Right, of course.
I understand that's not possible for everyone, but I guarantee you can take a piece of that based on your conditions and environment and apply it, and you'll see a difference, and you'll see a vastly positive difference. So it's extremely important, and it's just like if you're thinking I can't do that, or it's really not going to make that much of a difference, it's the same people who ask that question or who answer that question. When I ask the question, do you believe you deserve the results you're going after? There's a certain percentage of people that say yes. They think they believe it, but they're not making progress. They're stuck. They're sabotaging themselves. It's because their undeserving belief is buried so deep that they don't even realize it.
Right. Yes.
So same with if you're thinking, oh, social media is fine. It gives me pleasure and it's my way to interact with people and see what's going on in the world. It's 5% of it is that. 95% of it is really skewing with your psychology and headspace and always needing the next
hit
fix.
of dopamine.
Yes.
yes. Those hooks have been put there by the game. Yeah.
Right. I say behind every sunset selfie is suffering.
I love that. I'm keeping that. That's going in the show notes. Behind every sun. What did you say? Snap.
Behind every sunset selfie is suffering.
I love that. I'm keeping that. One.
If you need to be, it's just a symptom of not being in your life. If you need to be thinking, oh, I need to share this because other people, what will they think or will they like it? Right. You're not fully in the moment and present. And it doesn't mean you can't share stuff. But the tone is, are you there to share it or are you there to live it?
Right. Be there
really,
to live
really
it first.
important.
Yes. Be there to live it first.
And the editor of my book actually inserted in a few pieces of language that he liked. And one of them was the compare and despair syndrome of social media. And that really, we don't know what's happening, but we compare and we despair based on, for the most part, we're all posting only what we want other people to see.
Yes.
And if you go on or if those people that go on the tangents of like being authentic and all that, they're usually only posting that because they're dealing with something in their life. And you don't talk about wisdom.
And that
you don't tell people. Yeah, you don't tell people you're teaching wisdom. You just teach them. You don't tell people you're being authentic. You just are authentic.
Right.
So if you need to state it, it's usually not present. Because I see that a lot out there.
Oh yeah, for sure. The one, as we wrap up here, I wanted to say my spiritual practice has now become part of my insomnia, which I kind of like. So whenever I wake up at X o'clock and I still have 3 hours or 2 hours before the alarm goes off, that's when I do my spiritual practice.
Well, hey, that's beautiful.
I know, it's awesome. It is. It actually, I have a couple of different tricks that I like to use. Usually I have to make it so I can breathe through my nose again. So I'll have to get up and blow my nose or something. Yeah, it's part of living in Vegas. It's just so damn dry. But then I get back in bed and I start doing some version of meditation. I've really gotten into a homegrown version of transcendental meditation. I never actually went to the transcendental school because it costs money, so I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's how I started meditation. The reason I stuck with it is because I paid. So I was like, I don't want to lose this investment.
You've got buy-in, right?
Yeah. Do you ever nod off? Since you said you do it in your bed, do you ever nod off or kind of fall asleep while you're doing it?
What I'm trying, my first intention is that I say I'm going to set. I want to do transcendental meditation for about 20 minutes and then fall asleep. And that works almost never. So
do you are you doing it lying down or sitting up in your bed?
Lying down.
So I'd recommend sitting with your feet on the floor.
If I happen to fall asleep, that's okay.
Okay.
I don't really mind. Yeah. I would rather just fall asleep. But if I set the intention of saying I would like to, meditate for 20 minutes, then I'm going to get into my breath. I'm going to start doing the mantra. I'm going to start thinking about the unified field of consciousness. All the things that I'd want to do to transcend to that fourth state of consciousness. I'm doing that, but I'm also
Excellent.
hoping that I just nod off because I'm in bed and I want to go back to sleep. So it's sort of like the anti-insomnia trick, if that makes any sense.
Hey, whatever works, and it sounds like it's working for you.
It does. It does. It's pretty amazing. So
Awesome.
Sometimes, like, I'll just say, I don't feel like meditating. Let's just fall asleep. That works better, actually. So if you want to fall asleep, just intend to fall asleep and stop screwing around. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Okay, so you are at drjoshwagner.com. So talk a little bit about how folks can best get in touch with you.
The best way is go right there. So drjoshwagner.com. You can read more on the deserving belief. I have a masterclass which talks about what I consider the 3 keys to having your best life. I've introduced the first one here. Obviously, the other 2 are in the masterclass. It's free. You find my book on Amazon and just dive into it. Again, if there's an area where you want to see change in your life that's important to you and you know it's stuck or it's not going as quickly as you like.
And literally anything.
Anything. Learn the deserving process. It's in the book. Use it. Do it every day. And send me an email. Let me know what's changed. I love to hear it. I get them every day from people all over the world in every different area of life, whether it's relationships, money, weight, peace of mind, or anything else you can think of. And that gives me so much joy and more energy to keep sharing this message, which just everyone needs to hear.
Thank you, sir. This has been a blast. I thoroughly and truly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you. And you're doing great work. I appreciate it. And you have an awesome day.
Thank you, Jeff. You too.
Thanks.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.